Examon is the brand new King of Control deck of the BT10 and EX03 format. And today I'm going to show you guys how you can win with this deck. Just before we get started with the video, I got something really cool to share with all you guys. If you haven't watched our newest Battle of series, then be sure to check that out as well. In our latest Battle of Cross Encounter episode, we spiced things up, where Sam and I actually partnered with each other for a tag team battle against our friends this time. This gave us a chance to showcase you guys a larger variety of decks in action, so be sure to check it out after this video too. Links will be included on the top right iCard and in the description box down below, so I'll see you guys there. Hello Digimon players and fans, welcome back to another brand new Digimon deck profile and in-depth building guide video. Examon is the final Royal Knight to be introduced to the Digimon card game, and he is now here. This deck is certainly one of the most hyped decks coming into the EX03 and BT10 format. The goal of this deck is to bring out your Examon through DNA Digivolving and a stack with a bunch of really good inheritables to control the board along with Imperialdramon and Breakdramon together. And once Examon comes out, it is nearly impossible for your opponents to play around it or even out the card, because it has built-in protection with the brand new mechanic known as Evade, along with its massive DP as well. There are a couple of really cool combos that you can pull off with this deck, and I can't wait to show you guys, and I'll be teaching you guys how to play it as well, so definitely stick around. However, this deck really requires you to have all the correct amount of pieces and specific pieces there is to gather, which can take quite some time. And that is why consistency is ever more so than important when you are building this deck. So let's show you guys the build. Okay, for Digi-8 cards, we have the 4 copies of the brand new Babydomon. All turns, once per turn, when a Digimon with Dramon or Examon as name becomes unsuspended, this Digimon gets 1000 DP for the turn. Really good, just super good egg that's dedicated to synergize with this deck overall, because we do a lot of unsuspending anyways, so that extra 1k does really come up and makes your Examon your top end really strong, and it's really good. And 4 eggs is really all you need. You don't need a 5th one in this deck whatsoever. Okay, so let's talk about our rookies. We have the brand new Dracomon. So you guys might notice that you Digivolve for 1 on top of a blue or green egg. However, as long as you're Digivolving on top of a Babydomon, it Digivolves for 0, and that's the whole reason why we also just play that 4 copies of the Babydomon. But really, mostly what you want to be doing with this guy is just hard play, so you can search, grabbing yourself your blue or green Dramons with its name, as well as Examons. Just really good when you do get the double hits with this card, which is really good. And it's also a double color rookie, and it does provide a very good inheritable, just like your Babydomon, giving extra 1000 DP all turns once per turn as well, so that when you do unsuspend, you get even stronger with it. So perfect rookie that you must run a 4 of. Now I got a question for you. Have you subscribed yet? If you haven't done so yet, I would really appreciate the support from you by doing so. I got lots of BT10 and EX03 deck profiles coming up, and you definitely want to stay tuned for those videos. And also, give this video a like while you're at it, because it really helps. And thank you for supporting the channel, and you guys are awesome. Then we got 4 copies of the old Dracomon right here. Review the top 3 on play as well, adding 1 card with Dramon and its name among them, and then placing the rest back to the bottom. You know, just a very good secondary searcher. Searching is really important in this deck, so once again, you want to maximize 4 copies of this. Then to finalize with the rookies, we play the only 4 copies of the Madoki Betamon. Madoki Betamon is just a super good meta counter card right now, just to stop the memory gaining with all your opponent's Digimon essentially, and that's really what it's there for. And yeah, I just want to maximize that 4 copies for the consistency, and in order to see this against certain matchups as well. That's it for the rookies. Let's talk about our level 4s. First and foremost, this guy's making a comeback. The Quadramon from the All-Force Digimon starter deck. You play 4 of this guy. This is just super good because in security after battle, it comes out for free, and on play, you trigger draw 2, which is super helpful in this deck. You know, you'll be hard playing this guy a lot of times in the early stages of the game as well, just so you can draw cards, cycle cards. And once again, it's super important that this deck needs to find its key pieces in order for it to get there. And this is why, again, 4 copies of this Quadramon is really good and important. Next, for the other blue Quadramon right here, we have 3 copies. This one mainly is the Evade one. It can Digivolve for 2 on top of a Dracomon, which all your rookies mostly will be a Dracomon, which you're intended to. But of course, keep in mind, you will be paying the 3 costs if you do Digivolve on top of a Madoki Betamon or anything that's not a Dracomon's name, because it can Digivolve on top of both blue and green level 3. Now, like I mentioned, Evade is basically a brand new mechanic introduced in EX03 and is dedicated for Examon. What it does is that if this Digimon would be deleted by battle, by effects, or by anything in general that would make it deleted, you can basically just suspend it to prevent the deletion, giving it an built-in archetype protection, which is very, very nice. And honestly, 3 copies is really all I need in this. I don't feel like I want to see it as often, but there's just so much other cards that I do want to fill in this spot, so this is the only one that I'm actually playing a 3 of at the moment, which has worked out for me good anyways. Next, for the other level 4, another Cordramon, and this one is the green Cordramon. Same concept as the blue one, you Digivolve for 2 on top of a Dracomon in its name. Basically pay 3 for Digivolving on top of anything else outside of a Dracomon, and this one gives blocker itself as a blocker, but also gives inheritable blocker as well. And yeah, blocker is great, because you definitely want to control with your top end and your Examon. You definitely want to have that inheritable, prioritizing it a little bit more than Evade. That's why I went for that ratio there. Okay, next up, for level 5s, we got 4 copies of the Wingdramon. Now, it mainly kind of digivolves from the blue Cordramon, and what it does is basically it provides Evade as well. Now, you pay 3 for Digivolving on top of Cordramon, otherwise you have to pay 4 for anything else. Like I mentioned, it has the Evade, both for inheritable and both for its normal effect once per turn. But also your turn, Examon in your hand can treat this Digimon as a level 6 for any DNA Digivolving requirements, which it's super crucial that you have to maximize 4 copies of this level 5, because we're going to talk about a bit more as well later on. But also end of turn, you can DNA. And this is why you want to also then introduce, actually I want to introduce the 4 copies of the Grounddramon, which is Wingdramon's partner, for its whole synergy. Now, very similar again to the green Cordramon, this one's blocker. You Digivolve for 3 on top of a Cordramon mainly, and otherwise you have to pay 4 on top of any other blue or green Digimon essentially. Now, this one is that also exactly the same as Wingdramon. Examon on your hand can treat this guy as a level 6. Both these guys are basically your level 5s that substitute to be a level 6 to let you DNA very, very easily. And they both have the end of turn letting you DNA, which is very, very good. Very crucial piece to this whole deck. Provides blocker to your Examon as well. And yeah, you definitely always be comboing with these 2 guys. And I'll show you guys more how to pull it off in the combos later on. But 4 copies of each you must have. So that is it for the level 5s. Let's move into our level 6s. 4 copies of Slayerdramon. The one on the left is the alt art. Really, really cool card in general. You Digivolve for 3 on top of Wingdramon or Grounddramon, which is always very nice. Otherwise, you have to pay 4 to Digivolve on any other blue or green, level 5. Now, all turns, once per turn, when this Digimon becomes suspended, you get to unsuspend it. Now, you can kind of use it with various ways. You can sort of like make it swing twice, which is kind of nice, but also it synergizes with a lot of effects with the entire deck overall. Now, start your opponent's main phase. You may suspend one of your Digimon with Dramon or Examon in its name to force one of your opponent's Digimon to attack. Now, this is one of the coolest, newest effects that is very interesting for this deck. You know, this is the first time you ever seen someone that uses an effect that during their main phase, like, oh, you have to attack right now. And that's pretty crazy, because this can actually force your opponents to make very unfavorable plays that they don't want to be making, and bypassing a lot of other things that they do normally want to sort of counter you. And this kind of stops that, which is why it's super good. It has an inheritable that does exactly the same thing as well. And yeah, Slayerdramon is just super crucial in this deck. Very, very core to the strategy once again. And in the combos, we'll showcase you guys how cool it really is. Because then we have his partner as well to showcase. We got the 3 copies of the Breakdramon here. Once again, the middle one is the alt art. Digivolve for 3 on top of Grounddramon or Wingdramon. Otherwise, you pay 4 for a level 5 blue or green. All turns once per turn. When this Digimon becomes suspended, you suspend one of your opponent's Digimon. Again, you get to disrupt your opponent's plays, which is really, really nice. And once again, a very, very good card. And personally, I like Breakdramon more than Slayerdramon simply because of its secondary effect, which is absolutely insane. All turns, once per turn, when one of your Digimon with Dramon or Examon in its name deletes an opponent's Digimon by battle and survives, you trash the top card of your opponent's security stack. Now, how good is that? Trashing is just absolutely amazing because no effects can be activated from the security, and you can just trash all the way through with Breakdramon, which is sometimes why I personally do want to consider playing 4 copies of Breakdramon and 3 copies of Slayerdramon instead. However, overall Slayerdramon has been performing a little bit better than Breakdramon, and you do want to be seeing Slayerdramon a bit more because of its disruption plays anyways. But both these cards are just super fantastic, super good for the deck, and absolutely love it. Once again, Breakdramon Inheritable is exactly the same as its second effect as well, so that you get to trash even more. And yeah, there's a trashing combo that you just consistently trash over and over again, which I can showcase you guys later as well, which is really cool. That is it for the level 6s. So let's showcase you guys the star of the deck right here. We got 4 copies of Examon. Now, once again, gathering pieces is super crucial for this deck, which is why I play 4 copies of this card, and you definitely want to see it as soon as possible because your whole strategy is to get into him, and once you get into him, you have this super strong level 7 boss Digimon on the board, and it just makes it super hard for any deck to sort of like out it and try to overcome it. Now, Examon does a whole lot of things. You can normally Digivolve it on top of a level 6 for paying 5 cost, but really you're going to be DNA Digivolving because you're going to require a DNA of a level 6 green and a level 6 blue. And then by doing so, when Digivolving, you may place 1 green or blue Digimon card with Dramon and its name from your hand under this Digimon as its bottom Digivolution cards, and then so that you can pick and choose and give it like different inheritables you get to have. But that's not all, because when you do DNA Digivolve, which is why you always want to be doing that, is that you may play 1 blue or green Digimon card with Dramon in its name and 12,000 DP or less from your hand for free. The cards that you want to be bringing out with this effect would be your Slayerdramon and your Breakdramon as well. And then his second effect is that all turns, once per turn, when this Digimon becomes suspended, you get to unsuspend him and suspend one of your opponent's Digimon, giving it even more control aspect. And now this is basically the new control king of the meta and the format. Super good card once again. And yeah, really happy that he's here as the other final Royal Knight. That's it for all of our Digimon. Let's talk about Tamers. The only Tamer you ever will need, and you should be playing 3 of, is the Davis right here. Memory Tamer, but simply because we know that this deck is both blue and green, you can very easily get yourself 2 hits with it, and searching once again is super important. I did at even at one point wanted to debate and try to play 4 copies of Davis just for even more consistency in searching, but you know, that might be a little bit of overkill, so 3 copies is really all you need. And yeah, he is the perfect tamer that you just want to be playing in this deck whatsoever. So that's it for the tamers. Let's get into the options. 2 copies of blue memory boost, more searching, memory gain to make more plays, really good. What else can I say about it? So this card is just always definitely must have. Then we got 2 Megadeths for removal. An Imperial signature move right here to blend very nicely and synergize greatly, because once again, it's a both blue and green type of deck. So, you know, one of the best removals. So 2 copies is just really good for defensive capabilities. Then we have the 1 Ice Wall to round it all off, once again, for defensive capabilities, and has really good synergy along with like your Slayerdramon as well altogether. So pretty good stuff. But yeah, again, security, gain to memory, really good for disrupting plays from your opponents as well. So that's it for the 50 card main deck. Now let's showcase you guys some of the other really cool cards that you could consider adding into this deck. The first and foremost card I want to show you guys is actually a Vmon from EX1. Because we unsuspend a lot, we can actually utilize its inheritable and gain a memory, which is kind of nice. I initially did play test it with this card, and I kind of liked it, but then I felt like, okay, I want a bit more just general consistency, which is why I just took it out and didn't include it. But, you know, this card actually works very nicely for this deck. Then let's talk about some other options. We have Avalont's Gate, which is Examon's signature move right here. Main, activate one of the following effects below. If you have Examon in play in its name, you get to activate both effects instead, which is very nice. You can either choose to suspend one of your opponent's Digimon and one of your Digimon gets piercing for the turn, or you get to unsuspend one of your own Digimon. So really good with Examon. Once you have it on board, you have a lot of value by playing this card for 3 cost. And I initially did play 1 copy of this because also with its security effect, you get to suspend one of your opponent's Digimon and unsuspend one of your Digimon. Again, very nice with the whole effect and synergy with Examon. But I felt like this tech card wasn't really as good as I thought in terms of like filling into deck space, because now that I've play tested a lot, I actually realized consistency is actually way more important in this deck, in which it should be your top priority, which is why I don't really want to play too many tech options here and there, just for the sake of having these really cool plays. So that's why I didn't include it anymore, but definitely still a very good suggestion. Next, Hammer Spark is actually not a bad choice as well. Extending your plays, also kind of like a defensive card as well, but you guys can see there's not enough room to fit anything else. You guys can play this instead of Blue Memory Boost, but I just like Blue Memory Boost more because it's like sort of like a pseudo extra rookie. You get to dig for more pieces. Like I mentioned, finding pieces is just more crucial, so I prioritize that over Hammer Spark. Then, Metacall. Rattlestar is another very good removal other than Megadeth. Rattlestar, just very good for combating against like wide boards. So you can actually play this instead of Megadeth, and I think it's a very good Metacall currently as well. But Megadeth is just generally more, again, consistent and works out for me a bit more. Then we got Gigadeth, which is like the better version of Megadeth. This is like some Ultra Spice again. But it's really good again because you can counter like wide boards. You can basically clear your opponent's board with this security card right here and just counter so much whatnot. Paying 9 costs is a lot, but if you're able to sort of like bomb deck a bunch of your opponent's stuff or even everything, then I guess this is like the best card ever. But I'm not that high rolly. I don't like to gamble but too much. I don't like to bet on it too much either, which is why I don't include it, but I definitely have seen this pull off, and that's pretty crazy. Last but not least, HPD. Usually, since you're playing green, it makes total sense. However, there's a few arguments. Because you're always really focusing on DNA Digivolving, then you don't really need HPD. It's just more like a nice to have. And you can't capitalize it as much as Imperial does anyways, so which is why I didn't include it. All right, now that we got all the cards showcased and talked about, let's go to the how to play and combo guide of this deck. And yeah, there's a lot to showcase for sure. So in your early stages of the game, it's very similar to most decks. You're trying to find your pieces. So if you can play your Davis, then go ahead. You want to hard play your Dracomons, ideally the newer one because it can get you more pieces and find more blue memory boost and whatnot. And sometimes if you have to, you just have to hard slam this Cordramon to draw more pieces. Drawing cards is just super crucial, and yeah, that's your top priority because you need to see your Examon, you need to see your inheritables that you need, and you want to see both your level 6s of your Slayerdramon and Breakdramon in this deck and whatnot. So Babydomon is very, very subjective when it comes to Digivolving. Ideally, you can Digivolve your Madoki. There's only the situation that you would sort of hard slam the Madoki on the board is that when you're trying to finish off your turn, knowing that this would hard counter your opponent's plays. Otherwise, I would just like to Digivolve it a bit more. You can Digivolve your Dracomons if you have multiple copies in early stages of the game. So again, we're just really trying to dig for your level 4s, 5s, and continue building. Now, there's a lot of different ways you can be sort of building your into your Examon. Now, of course, like Digivolving is like the traditional way to go. Like once you have these guys out, you can Digivolve them, for 2 right here to build up your level 4, and then you can build into your 5, and then you would have your other 5 right here. Once you've established this on the board, you basically go into your DNA, and of course you want to make sure that you have like a copy of each of these cards to go into, right? Because both Grounddramon and Ringdramon together synergizes greatly, because once you've done that, you basically DNA right here. And you don't necessarily need to have Davis even, right? Because you get your end of turn DNAs. Let's just say you do whatever it takes, and then you pass your opponent to 3. You DNA into your Examon. Now your Examon will let you place one of these guys underneath. So depending on the matchup, you might sometimes want to use Slayerdramon in most cases, but otherwise if you have other different pieces or different matchups where you think you're okay, you can actually slide and Slayerdramon and then play Breakdramon. They both give you the same effects anyways, but normally I like to slide in Breakdramon. I hard play the Slayerdramon, and now you pass to your opponent. Now once you pass to your opponent, they're gonna draw, they're gonna hatch their egg, or choose to push out or not. Once they've made that decision, starting at their main phase, if your opponent has any Digimon on the board, you use your Slayerdramon to force them to attack. Now, your Examon has a lot of inheritables. You have Grounddramon with Blocker. You have Wingdramon with Evade. You even have your Dracomon for extra 1000 DP. And most importantly, the Breakdramon inheritable as well. So you force your opponents to come and attack. You have this big blocker right here. So you can suspend your Slayerdramon. And then because of its all turns effects, once per turn when it gets suspended, you get to unsuspend him. Or you can even choose to suspend your Examon Examon gets to unsuspend as well, and you can suspend one of your opponent's Digimon as well, and again, forcing them, one of their other Digimon or whatnot, to make an attack. Now your Examon can block it. You know, once your Examon blocks it, Breakdramon. Well, before Breakdramon activates effects, you gain the extra 1000 DP with Dracomon, making it 16. But now, once you delete it by battle, they have to trash the top card or their security stack, which is very, very nice right there. And that's really the common bread and butter combo that you really want to be getting into. But there are many different scenarios and different situations where I even like to have 2 Breakdramons if possible. If you have like multiple of these guys here on the board, then you're just like rolling super strong if you run into this kind of situation. This is just like super epic. If you ever do get into this kind of situation, you can probably have another level 6 somehow as you're growing, and while you're controlling the board, let's just say you somehow have this combination right here. And even just 2 Breakdramons alone can give you a lot of pressure. It gives you a bit more pressure on your own turn as well by having 2 Breakdramons, because you can swing over your opponent's stuff, you know, and then unsuspend with Examon, suspend something that your opponent has, and then because you delete something by battle, both these Breakdramons basically will trigger, trashing 2 securities at a time. And this has happened to me quite often, and I really like this combo because by trashing 2 securities at a time, now you get to swing another one and you trash another 2 security. That's 4 security trashed in one go, and then you can just swing for game here somehow and whatnot, right? So really, really strong combos, really cool ways to play it. And then the other way, other than just hard playing your 3s and your 4s, of course, you can be doing, you know, digivolving your 4 here outside after playing the Dracomon. Sometimes, you know, you have the Madoki, or you might have another Dracomon in here in the raising, so you can be digivolving inside here, you know, growing to your level 5, and then make sure that you can go into your other level 5, and then once you're ready, you push it out, and then you digivolve, and then you do your end of turn DNAs and whatnot to go into the exact same combo from where you are as well into Examon, and then you play, you know, break, slide something under, just like that. So very, very simple. You really want to, again, just prioritize going into your Examon as soon as possible. Once you establish him on board with Breakdramon and Slayerdramon, you basically just control the game from there, and you just start winning, and you just become super overwhelming, and it's very hard for your opponent to take you down. Not to mention, you have evade as well. So if it's ever in threat, you can always just suspend it and synergize with Examon, because if it's suspended, it can unsuspend and suspend your opponent's Digimon, stopping them from attacking, making this very interesting defensive, ultimate defensive blue and green deck, which you usually don't really see. That will conclude for my very own deck building strategy and in-depth guide for the Examon deck profile for BT10 and EX03 format. If you guys enjoyed the video and found it helpful, please give it a like. If you have any suggestions, recommendations, or questions, be sure to share it with everyone in the comments down below. Overall, Examon really feels like the brand new style of Black War Greymon. The deck and its control style is one of my favorite parts of playing this deck, because you get to even trash your opponent's security. And by doing so, you don't have to face any annoying options or security effects that will bother you. Forcing your opponents to attack you against their own will is pretty funny and pretty spicy as well. The only thing I just don't like about this deck is that it heavily relies on finding the pieces, and sometimes it can be relatively difficult and timely when you don't see them, and it feels like then you don't get to play the game. But that will wrap up for the video for today. If you guys want to see more BT10 and EX03 deck profiles, then be sure to subscribe right now and turn on that notification bell to stay tuned. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. You guys have a great day, great night, wherever you are. See you in the next video. This is Avault, signing out.